Alright, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Goodbye, Mr. Chips, 1939. I'm giving this 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was alright. It's about a headmaster at a all-base boarding school in England during World War One. I thought it was too long, an hour and 54 minutes. And of course, it's in glorious black and white. But I did like the kind of boarding school authoritarian approach to schooling, the honesty about how they want to mold young boys into men, that sort of thing. The honesty kind of struck me as being a little bit odd and unusual. But then the romance between Mr. Chips and his dream girl, the much younger Blondie, was quite well done, I thought. The rest of the movie was bland and boring. It's a romantic comedy, so once again, not my favorite genre. I think it could have been a lot better, especially the handling of the World War One situation was very confusing to me. At one point, Mr. Chips makes a eulogy to a fallen German soldier. I don't remember all the names, so I'm guessing it was one of the masters there. They've got all kinds of different masters: home master, headmaster, and some other kind of master. Chippings, his real name, starts out as a some other kind of master, but the movie starts out with the towards the ending. Mr. Chips is in his 80s, or Chipping, as they call him in the beginning of the story. Um, so Chipping is in his 80s. His doctor says he's sick and he should stay home, but he goes to the gallery where all the kids are at and all the authority figures are addressing the kids. And the headmaster is making a speech, and Chips or Chippings goes back to his little what do you call it? His little school quarters where he lives, and he starts taking naps, starts having flashbacks about the story of his life, which is kind of tedious and boring. Can't really get into the characters, although I like the little romance scenes with him and his dream girl. I thought that was pretty cool. But the rest of the movie was, for the most part, pretty much snore material as far as I'm concerned. I don't even know why I had it in my Netflix queue, to be honest. It's a British film, which leads me to believe that it was Canon, or not Canon, but Hammer, maybe? I don't know. Maybe it was a Hammer film. I don't know. It says MGM, I think, in the beginning, but So at the beginning of Chip's life, he's called Chipping, and he's kind of an authoritarian, kind of snobbish, not very charming young man. He's teaching Latin class, and he doesn't get along with the students at all. Nobody wants to talk to him. And then his one of his fellow professors there, he sort of takes on his wing. He insists that he goes on vacation in Austria. So he reluctantly goes along, and he's sitting there in some mountain with all this mist floating around. And he hears a hello from a woman. He mistakenly thinks that it's a cry for help. So he goes climbing the mountain in his kind of regular professor clothes. And he meets the girl of his dreams. They quickly fall in love. It's like love at first sight. And they start. She starts sharing sandwich with him. He shares his jacket, but then she insists on wrapping it around both of their shoulders, which is kind of risque for 1939, I guess. And they keep bumping into each other. They go to Vienna, start dancing. It's very romantic. And then she takes the train. Chips thinks it's goodbye, but she gives him a smacker on the lips. I guess she feels sorry for him because he's kind of a lonely middle-aged guy. I can sort of relate to what he's going through. Although I have a child, Mr. Chips never had kids, except for the kids in school. And so his friend says, "You're going to get married, and I'm the best man." And they get married. From then on, Chip's personality changes. He starts joking in class, making kids laugh. His newlywed wife is inviting them over for tea and crumpets or whatever these Brit people eat and drink. Tea time, I guess. And in between their various activities. And the Chips, they start calling him Chips because that's what his wife calls him. And then Chips' wife dies, having her baby, and the baby dies also. Chips is heartbroken, but he still continues his cheery attitude. He gets promoted to homemaster, finally, after getting rejected when he was grumpy and younger. And then the war happens. The headmaster has to go fighting in the war, so he decides to take over the headmaster, which is what his ex-wife predicted would happen before she died. So he starts talking to the picture of the portrait of her on his desk, and he says, "I did it. I became headmaster." Then the war ends. Kids are cheering, and lots of dead Brit soldiers by then. Of course, with the horrible trench warfare, and yeah, that's pretty much the movie. I don't want to spoil the ending, but long movie, boring. It had its moments though. I like the romance scene in the beginning of the movie when uh, when the school was more of a authoritarian type boarding school. Like I don't know if you've seen Pink Floyd's The Wall, but uh, there's a part there when Pink Floyd is doing their most popular song of all time, probably. We don't need no education. That one, and kids are being scolded and treated like pretty much robots. And you see these kids on the walking on an assembly line that leads to a meat grinder, and then eventually the kid dreams of burning the school on fire. I think that's more realistic assessment of boarding school in England during the 20th century. But there's a little bit of that, not too much. I think it could have been a better movie, honestly. But yeah, it's Lunar New Year here in Millbrae, heavy Chinese population. So naturally, they got the crazed Democrat politicians out here in the Chinese parade for the first day of the Lunar New Year. And my son's going to be in the San Francisco parade, but I drove over here and I thought I wouldn't find parking, but fortunately I pulled up in the Safeway parking lot. Some dude was honking at me that I took his spot because I pulled up so that I wouldn't have to back out. And I took him to open house at St. Gregory's School because his son's going to be in 6th grade during the 2021-2022 school year. So I told his mother for the first time that I wanted him to go there for 6th grade. He's in 4th grade right now. And I know she's going to fight me in court about it. She didn't even say a word after I told her, explained to her what was happening today. But then we go to the open house and we get donuts and orange juice, and my son was bored. So we go to Mickey D's. Mickey D's doesn't even have their lunch menu for like another 45 minutes. We're just like sitting in the car. I'm watching Goodbye Mr. Chips, and my son is watching YouTube videos on his cell phone, some old YouTubers that he watched from a few years back. He's starting to go back to his old YouTube habits. And I've got them. The artwork for the movie Goodbye Mr. Chips, by the way, it's it doesn't at all look like the actors in the movie. It just looks like, for instance, Mr. Chips has a rather thick porn mustache. Kind of interesting, but here's them. This is what I'm going to watch next. And on the disc and on the main screen of the disc, it shows a painting, a portrait of the Mr. Chips and his wife, and it doesn't even look remotely like the actors in the movie because Mr. Chips is missing his mustache, and even the lady doesn't look the same. So kind of interesting the way they did that. But anyways, I'm not going to say highly recommended for this movie. I'm not going to say check it out. going to post anything in the description box because I don't know anything about the people involved in the movies, much less the actors. They're totally foreign to me, no pun intended. And yeah, so I'm going to start watching them. Hopefully, I can get to. Is it? Which one? It's another A.C. Stevens movie I want to see. It's Ed Wood and A.C. Stevens. It's called The Beach Bunnies. So I'm going to try to get through that one. And I predicted that I'd get through all 5 of them by the end of this week. So The Beach Bunnies is going to be my 5th one for this week. And I think I can do it. I'm going to try. That's the end of my review. Laters.